Jamal Bryant just dropped a claim that has the gospel world buzzing, and some are calling it unbelievable. In a recent sermon, he boldly said he went to hell to deliver souls and set people free. The declaration shocked congregants, divided fans, and sparked a firestorm online. But is this divine revelation, dramatic storytelling, or something more controversial than it seems? Today, we're uncovering the full story, the context, the reactions, and the hidden truths behind Jamal Bryant's explosive statement. What he said, why he said it, and the ripple effects across the gospel community will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. Stay with me, because this story is far from over. The moment Jamal Bryant declared that he had gone to hell to deliver souls, the gospel world paused. Social media erupted, fans debated fervently, and church insiders whispered about the boldness and controversy of his statement. Was it a literal spiritual claim, a metaphorical teaching, or something that exposes tensions within the gospel community? In this video, we're taking you behind the scenes. You'll discover the context of Bryant's sermon, the reactions it provoked, and the rarely discussed details that reveal why this declaration is more than just a headline. From his spiritual philosophy to past controversies and the impact on his congregation, we'll break down every layer of this story. You won't believe what happened next, the responses from fellow pastors, fans, and critics, the fiery debates online, and the private conversations that few will ever hear. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Jamal Bryant's statement isn't just controversial, it's a reflection of the challenges, risks, and complexities of modern gospel ministry. This is where it gets unbelievable. So stay tuned as we uncover the full truth behind Jamal Bryant's explosive claim. It all started with a sermon that no one could ignore. Jamal Bryant stepped to the pulpit, his voice steady but commanding, and declared something that sent shockwaves through his congregation. He said he had gone to hell to deliver souls and set people free. For many, it was a moment that blurred the line between spiritual teaching and headline-making controversy. The congregation was stunned. Some gasped, some leaned in with curiosity, and others whispered to their neighbors, trying to process the weight of his words. Social media, of course, immediately caught wind of it. Clips of the sermon spread like wildfire, with reactions ranging from awe to skepticism. For Bryant, this wasn't theatrics. It was a deeply personal testament, rooted in years of ministry, spiritual encounters, and a desire to bring truth to light in the most dramatic way possible. Insiders reveal that this wasn't an isolated statement. Bryant has long been known for his bold, sometimes provocative approach to preaching. He pushes boundaries, challenges conventional thinking, and isn't afraid to use shock value to deliver spiritual lessons. But this moment went further. It became a lightning rod for debate, prompting questions that go beyond theology. People began asking, was he speaking metaphorically about spiritual battles, or was he literally claiming an extraordinary spiritual experience? Even within the church, reactions were mixed. Some congregants praised him for fearlessly sharing his experiences, calling him a modern-day spiritual warrior. Others questioned whether such claims were appropriate for public teaching, concerned about potential misinterpretation or sensationalism. Behind the scenes, pastors and gospel leaders started weighing in, some defending his ministry approach, while others cautioned about the impact such statements could have on public perception. And here's where the tension begins to build. As the sermon went viral, critics started digging into Bryant's past controversies, previous bold statements, and the moments where his ministry has sparked debate. Suddenly, what might have been a sermon intended to inspire became a focal point for a broader conversation about credibility, spiritual authority, and the line between revelation and sensationalism. But what happened next changed everything. As the sermon clips spread, the conversation didn't just stay within the gospel world, it reached mainstream media, social platforms, and even late-night commentary. Suddenly, Jamal Bryant wasn't just a pastor in a pulpit, he became a cultural phenomenon, a polarizing figure, and the center of a debate that would ignite weeks of discussion and analysis. Once Jamal Bryant's sermon clips hit social media, the reactions were immediate, intense, and sometimes explosive. Within hours, hashtags were trending, comment sections overflowed, and debates raged across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Some people were in awe, convinced that Bryant had experienced something divine and unprecedented. Others were skeptical, questioning whether his claims were metaphorical, exaggerated, or even misleading. Fans of his ministry rallied in support. They shared testimonies of how his sermons had transformed their lives, framing this bold claim as an extension of his fearless approach to preaching truth. To them, Bryant wasn't just a pastor, he was a spiritual warrior, someone willing to confront the dark and liberate souls in ways others never dared. Posts went viral, with thousands commenting on the audacity and power of his message. Yet with support came sharp criticism. Religious commentators, rival pastors, and even some members of his congregation questioned whether such statements were responsible to make publicly. Going to hell? One commentator asked, is that literal or symbolic? How does that shape the faith of followers? Critics argued that sensational claims could undermine credibility, spark confusion, and shift focus away from spiritual growth to controversy. Insiders revealed that the ripple effect extended far beyond social media. Within gospel circles, discussions were heated. Some pastors defended Bryant's spiritual authority, emphasizing the importance of boldness in ministry and the power of delivering messages that challenge complacency. Others privately expressed concern, fearing that these statements could be misinterpreted or weaponized by critics of gospel preaching. Adding fuel to the fire, mainstream media outlets picked up on the story. News reports framed it as both extraordinary and controversial, sparking further debate. Late-night commentary and talk shows dissected his claims, debating theology, sensationalism, and the nature of modern ministry. Bryant suddenly became a household name outside the traditional gospel audience, and every public interaction, interview, or tweet was scrutinized. But what made this moment particularly compelling and controversial were the personal testimonies and insider accounts that began surfacing. Sources close to Bryant claimed he had shared similar experiences privately with trusted members of his team, describing encounters with spiritual realms that he believed were real and transformative. These accounts lent credibility to his sermon while simultaneously fueling skepticism, because such extraordinary claims are rarely accepted at face value. And here's where it gets even more intense. As the viral storm grew, rival ministers, critics, and commentators started openly questioning Bryant's motives, framing the statement as attention-seeking or dramatic. Online debates were polarized, with some defending spiritual authenticity and others accusing him of sensationalism. Meanwhile, supporters argued that true ministry sometimes requires taking risks, speaking boldly, and confronting forces others fear to name. The unfolding reactions didn't just reflect public opinion, they exposed a deeper tension within gospel ministry itself, the delicate balance between faith, credibility, spiritual authority, and the very human desire for attention. Bryant's sermon had ignited a conversation that went far beyond the pulpit, challenging assumptions, testing loyalties, and redefining what bold preaching could look like in the 21st century. While the public debate raged, the real story was unfolding behind closed doors. Sources close to Jamal Bryant reveal that his statement about going to hell to deliver souls was not spontaneous. It was rooted in years of personal experiences, spiritual encounters, and ministry decisions that few outsiders had ever seen. According to insiders, Bryant has long been known for his unconventional approach to preaching. He is fearless, unafraid to push theological boundaries, and committed to delivering messages that challenge both congregants and critics alike. Those who have worked closely with him describe a man deeply reflective about spiritual realities, someone who carefully prepares sermons to convey both power and authenticity. This latest claim, shocking as it was to the public, was reportedly consistent with his personal experiences and teachings. But it wasn't just about bold preaching. Behind the scenes, conversations with close aides and ministry leaders suggest that Bryant has been navigating criticism, controversy, and high expectations for years. Sources describe private moments where he shared visions, revelations, and encounters with spiritual forces that he believes few people would understand. In these private discussions, Bryant reportedly emphasized the purpose behind his statements: to liberate, to warn, and to ignite spiritual awakening. Insiders also indicate that he anticipated the backlash. Bryant's team reportedly discussed how the statement would be received, weighing the risks and rewards. They knew the sermon would go viral, sparking debate that extended far beyond the pulpit. And yet, they also recognized the opportunity to reach audiences in ways that conventional preaching could not, and to affirm Bryant's unique role as a leader, willing to confront spiritual realities head-on. The insider accounts add another layer to the story. Some suggest that Bryant's claim was intertwined with ongoing ministry initiatives focused on spiritual deliverance, counseling, and faith-based empowerment. By framing his experience as an extraordinary act of spiritual intervention, he highlighted both the challenges he faces as a leader and the transformative potential of confronting evil head-on. But controversy always comes with consequences. Sources reveal that some congregants and fellow ministers privately expressed concern, questioning whether such a dramatic claim might overshadow his broader message or even confuse followers who take statements literally. Despite this, Bryant remained resolute. For him, spiritual authority is not about avoiding scrutiny. It's about standing firm in the truth as he perceives it. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. According to insiders, the story didn't stop at spiritual claims. Bryant's statement triggered a chain of private discussions among gospel leaders, ministry advisors, and even critics who had previously questioned his methods. These conversations explored theological implications, spiritual accountability, and the ethics of delivering messages that blur lines between literal experiences and metaphorical teaching. It wasn't just drama. It was a catalyst for serious reflection within the gospel community. Finally, sources hint at another hidden layer. There are additional stories and experiences Bryant has yet to share publicly, moments that could further explain the intensity and context of his claim. If revealed, these experiences may shift public perception, highlight his role as a spiritual pioneer, and reveal the stakes involved in preaching messages that are both controversial and transformative. Once Jamal Bryant's sermon went viral, the reactions from the gospel community were immediate, intense, and highly polarized. Leaders, pastors, and influencers across social media, church networks, and ministry circles began weighing in, sparking a whirlwind of discussion that would dominate the faith world for weeks. Some praised Bryant for his boldness, calling him a spiritual warrior unafraid to confront darkness head-on. Followers shared testimonies of lives touched, healed, or transformed by his ministry, framing his claim about going to hell as evidence of his unique spiritual authority. To them, Bryant wasn't seeking attention. He was demonstrating the power of confronting evil to bring liberation to others. Social media posts, viral videos, and live stream discussions amplified the support, portraying him as a fearless leader taking ministry to a new level. Yet, alongside the praise came sharp criticism. Some pastors and ministry leaders questioned whether Bryant's statements were appropriate, calling them sensational or potentially misleading for congregants. Critics argued that claims about personally entering hell, while dramatic, could confuse believers, spark theological debates, or even damage Bryant's credibility in mainstream circles. Commentators debated whether the line between revelation and exaggeration had been crossed, turning spiritual teaching into controversy. Insiders reveal that private reactions among gospel leaders were just as intense. Some were impressed, recognizing Bryant's courage and commitment to spiritual truth, while others quietly expressed concern about how such statements might influence the next generation of ministry leaders. One source noted that some ministers feared that this kind of bold declaration could set unrealistic expectations for what spiritual leadership looks like, blurring the line between faith and theatrics. Meanwhile, online discussions didn't just stay in gospel circles. The story spilled over into mainstream media, with news outlets framing the claim as both extraordinary and controversial. Late-night commentators, podcast hosts, and cultural critics weighed in, dissecting the theological, ethical, and psychological implications of Bryant's statement. Suddenly, a sermon that began in a pulpit was now a topic of national debate. Adding another layer, insider accounts suggest that fellow pastors reached out to Bryant privately, some expressing support, others questioning the timing and method of delivering such a bold message. The private dialogues revealed an undercurrent of concern, respect, and reflection within the ministry world. Some leaders acknowledged the spiritual courage required to make such a statement publicly, while others worried about the public fallout and long-term implications for his ministry. And here's where the controversy deepened. Fans and critics alike began questioning the authenticity and motive behind Bryant's claim. Was it a genuine spiritual experience, a metaphorical teaching, or a calculated move to capture attention in a media-saturated world? Online forums exploded with debates, with hashtags, viral threads, and live-stream discussions dissecting every word, gesture, and implication. For Bryant, the sermon had created a complex web of admiration, skepticism, and intrigue that reached far beyond his congregation. But what happened next was perhaps the most dramatic moment of all. Some sources indicate that the sermon sparked conversations about spiritual accountability, public influence, and the responsibility of ministry leaders to balance revelation with discernment. Behind-the-scenes meetings, private messages, and closed-door discussions among pastors and ministry advisors reflected a growing awareness that this moment wasn't just about one sermon. It was about how leaders navigate bold declarations in a world watching every move. While the public debate raged on social media and news outlets, the real drama unfolded behind closed doors. Sources close to Jamal Bryant reveal that in the days following his sermon, he engaged in private conversations with fellow pastors, ministry leaders, and trusted advisors. These discussions weren't just casual check-ins, they were high-stakes conversations about credibility, spiritual authority, and the ripple effects of a statement that had captivated the gospel world. Insiders describe Bryant as calm but resolute during these private meetings. He reportedly articulated the intention behind his declaration to confront darkness, deliver souls, and inspire spiritual awakening. Friends and advisors note that he emphasized the transformative nature of his experiences, insisting that what he was sharing wasn't for personal gain or media attention, but a reflection of his calling as a pastor and spiritual leader. However, not everyone was convinced. Some leaders challenged him directly, questioning the literal nature of his claim and its potential consequences for congregants. "How do you explain this to people who might take it literally?" one advisor reportedly asked. Bryant, unfazed, explained that spiritual ministry often requires boldness, and that confronting fear, even symbolically, is central to leadership. His reasoning highlighted a tension that exists in ministry between bold spiritual claims and public perception, a tension that few pastors dare to navigate publicly. At the same time, some congregants reached out privately, expressing both concern and admiration. Several shared personal stories of transformation, inspired by Bryant's teachings, reinforcing the idea that his boldness resonated with those seeking spiritual liberation. These private affirmations provided him with support and validation amid mounting criticism. Meanwhile, insider accounts suggest that rival ministers and critics also attempted to contact Bryant, challenging his statements and pressing for clarity. Some of these encounters reportedly became heated with debates over theology, credibility, and spiritual authority. Yet even in these confrontations, Bryant maintained composure, framing his message as a call to spiritual courage rather than controversy.